Did you see the picture of Brock Purdy that was floating around social media?
Yeah, my dad sent me that picture and he said, "Hey, this is the first NFL quarterback I've ever seen with like shoulders like you." And I said, "Man, but Brock Purdy's got a very, very thick midsection and he's got some thick legs." Because Brock Purdy's a big guy actually for his size. That was the one thing I noticed. He's got a thick lower half. Those
Well, yeah,
Bosa quads are real.
they talk about that. Look at his arm. He's got the bionic, you know, I don't want to call it a cast. It's not a cast. The bionic brace on his
Right.
arm. That guy's going to be ready to roll in training camp. That's what they're hoping. They're hoping he's going to be ready to roll. Look at him. He looks like the friggin' Terminator right now. You're right. They are putting a lot of expectations on him.
If he is, Rob, like that's great, right? If he is, that's great. He played pretty great at the end of last year. I understand, like they clearly seem to love him. I get it all. But the expectations they're putting on him to be ready, Rob, I'm asking, is it fair? I'm asking, is it fair? If you were Brock Purdy, if you had this serious injury, if 2 weeks before you even got a second opinion on your injury, your coach was saying what surgery you were already going to have and you're going to be back, is it fair? Because even this timeline, Rob, right? It puts the impression on fans that Brock Purdy should be ready by that point. If Brock Purdy is not ready by that point, what do fans say? Do they say, hey, Brock Purdy is still hurt and it's taking time for him to get ready? Or are they frustrated that Brock Purdy is not ready?
Well, yeah, this is the weird thing, right? So let's say we get to training camp and Brock is not ready to go, which is not an unrealistic scenario and nothing. Then it's going to be like, did Brock have a setback? And they're going to say, oh, no, Brock didn't have a setback. No 49er player ever has a setback. Trey Lance had a second surgery that was unplanned, but that's not a setback. So they're going to sit there and say, oh, no, everything's fine with Brock. And it's like, well, then why the hell did you tell us in March that you were hoping he'd be ready to go at training camp? Like that, again, it's going to be a difference in what was said at one point between what is being said at the current point.
Right. And someone said in the comments, which is a fair point, right? The doctor says when Brock can play, what's the pressure? Well, it's not that simple, right? I mean, we saw that what happened with the Jimmy Garoppolo ankle situation in 2020. Shanahan complimented his toughness for playing through it against the Jets game. It's probably the most effusive he's ever talked about Jimmy Garoppolo after that Jets game when he toughed it out and finished that half on one leg. Shanahan was loving it. Next thing we know, there were some conflicting reports later in the season that Shanahan was frustrated that Garoppolo didn't play.
When the doctor says Brock can play, I mean, first of all, like go through the history of the NFL. Doctors will say a lot, and a lot of times it's what the team wants to hear. Let's just state that as the obvious thing. And again, like Stefania Bell said with Steph Sanchez on her YouTube channel, Steph 49K or 49 carats, excuse me, return to performance is what we want. We don't just want the minimum where he can play. We want him to be able to play like he played last year. Chances are, and just even if there was no injury, he's going to have very little time throwing a ball, no time throwing a ball with teammates. Like, it's going to take time to get up to speed. Anybody would.
He goes through, he's good. Even then, he has a very limited offseason to come in and play. I mean, are we going to go over this again, Rob? What was the excuse everybody made for Jimmy Garoppolo at the start of the season, Rob?
Oh, he needed time. He needed reps, even though it was just like riding a bike. He needed, come next week later, he needed more time. He didn't have an off season with these guys.